All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome to First Mover. As you all check in here, Hayden and Tish, as everybody gets checked in here, what we're going to do is I'm really excited because we have a really awesome guest. So I'm going to go through a few presentation items, and then we're going to speed to him, and it's going to be a really awesome.
Hey, Nathaniel, real quick, before
Yeah.
we dive into that, maybe what you should do is take a few moments and tell people a little about your story and about why this is your passion and why this is working out so well for you. And one more why. Why is the market so kind of erratic, meaning it doesn't make sense? So first, let's start with your story.
Okay, sure. Well, as some of you might know, I was a teacher. I have done an extensive amount of research and education in the child development and education fields. I've taught in every level of school, from being a preschool administrator to, well, I haven't taught in elementary school actually, but I've taught in junior high school, college. I've taught curriculum for teachers. I worked as a behavior therapist for children with autism and other disabilities as in inclusive environments. So the whole background was education, right? And basically, I got to the end of my master's degree where I'd done more research than most of the full-time staff. I had traveled around the world presenting the research, and I was going to be a professor actually in colleges, and I basically decided that every piece of that sounded horrible. No part of education sounded like something I'd want to do and be alive. So what I did is I sat back and I took a combination of all of my passions, which was helping people. The background of everything was, the core of everything was helping people. I went and I took educating people as well. And then I was absolutely fascinated with the courses that I took in where people move, why they move, when they move, how cities grow. I'd always studied that as like a kind of fun passion project. And so I took all of those things together, and also been studying the real estate market and have been investing since I started in college, because what I realized was living on my own is great, and paying for living on my own was not great, right? It was expensive when you're in college. That's a lot of money. So what I did is I bought a place, rented out the other room, and then we turned that into several other purchases throughout the years. But so I took all my passions, I put them together, got a real estate license, and in end of 2010, when basically the whole world was on fire, just like similar to now in a way, but a different dumpster fire. Launched a real estate career, and within the first 3 years was in the top 1% in the country based on production, because I used tools that weren't being used at the time, mainly social media and digital means. So that's the super quick version.
It's a great version. And you love residential more than commercial, right?
I do. I love residential a lot more than commercial because it has a lot more to do with people and emotions, and commercial is a lot more about just cold hard numbers.
And the metal community, I'm not here because I'm the guy who created it, but being part of a community really has helped your career out.
Yeah, metal has helped. I joined metal right at the time I started my real estate business, which, I mean, probably within 3 months, I met Ken at a fundraiser, and we met, we hit it off and started coming to metal, and then the rest is history.
There you go. And then you focus primarily on the Los Angeles markets, correct?
Yeah, Los Angeles and Ventura County. Basically, if you look at from Manhattan Beach to Oxnard and then into kind of Santa Clarita, basically.
And would you say there's a sweet spot in the type of home you like to work with, a price range, or Are you working with sub 1 million, or is it above a million? What's your area?
Well, now I've built a team, so we have properties everywhere in the price point, but my sweet spot's more $1 million to $5 million, but we have listings that are 15 million right now. I've, dealt with properties that are $100 million. So if you look at the bread and butter, that's 1 to 5, but we deal with all of them. And, the 10, 15, 20 million, $50 million properties, they're definitely a lot of fun to deal with. And I like things where I get to customize everything. And the higher end the property, the more specialized you have to be, which Herman will tell us all about because he is the luxury master up there in San Francisco.
And we'll learn about that, but I'm sorry to put you on the spot there, but I don't think a lot of people know your story. And that's why I wanted you to make sure that people know that this is really, you had other options. You actually came from an educational background.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I have degrees and degrees, master's degrees. I had a slew of job offers on my hands when I went, okay, and I looked at all of them, and I mean, much easier money than real estate, realistically. The salary, benefits, you could get a paycheck. Great things, really. But it was really important for me to live your passion.
There you go. Well, Nathaniel, it's always great to have you part of the metal organization community. And you definitely work the relationships, meaning you're not just there for the sale, you're there for the long haul. That's really important. So what do you got in store for us today?
Well, just to go back to that, I've created more probably lifelong transformative friendships and relationships in metal than probably any other single group, which I'm sure everybody here, I mean, not Herman, but everybody else has also done that as well. And maybe Herman will too in the future. We'll see.
There you go.
I mean, he has a beautiful picture behind him. So there's that.
So what do you got in store for us today?
All right. So can I have the power to share my screen?
Yes, sir. I'll give that to you. So you make sure that you never feel like you don't have.
Harry, I'm not sure what that means, if that's good or bad, but I'll take it as a positive.
Oh. Nathaniel, it's very positive. That explains a lot. You're a bit of a sociologist. I'm learning now that you love to help people, and it's your ability to know why people move and where they move and how they move. That explains a lot to me why you're so good at what you do. I had no idea.
Oh,
great.
Thank you. I
thought you just had a knack for this, but you've been trained and it's a passion. That's a good combination.
Well, thanks. I feel like there's some sort of skill involved too, but yeah. I appreciate that. Okay, let's see. I'm using a new computer, so let's see if this will work. Okay, so can you all see that? I hear nothing.
Yes.
Yes, okay, great. And is it the whole screen, or you see like the little?
We see the little sidebar as well.
Okay. How do I share just do I just hit play on it, I guess? Slideshow. No, oh yeah, there we go. Okay, so today something that was interesting to me is I always look at what people are searching online. And so today the #1 search term that's real estate related is, what is a contingent sale? So I wanted to explain what a contingent sale is before we really dive into everything, because being in our field, we know what it is, but I think a lot of people don't. So basically, a contingent sale is when you're buying a house based on a contingent factor, usually based on finding your home of choice, which one of the guys who I'm surprised is not here yet, but he probably will be, James, he's looking to sell his house here contingent on buying a house in Vegas. So meaning he can find a buyer here in LA, but he isn't going to let them go through the escrow period without him having found a house in Vegas. So does that make sense? Jared, I think I lost you. You went into witness protection or something, but That's okay?
Oh yeah, I can still hear you.
Oh, okay, great. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay, great. So let's see here. I want to stop this share and then I want to share. Ethan, you're always in your car, man. It's amazing. It's really interesting. So I want to go.
I got shit to do, man. Always got shit to do.
I get it. You're an important man with big things to do. So I want to kind of do this thing. It's pretty interesting. So this is a system. I know that the last time we did before and afters, it was really interesting and people seem to like it. So I just want to pick a property and we can see how much was spent and what the before and after is. So Harry, what's a price point that you're interested in? Just pick a price point. 6 million, 7 million?
Sure, let's go 6 million.
Okay, so here's one actually up in Herman's Hood. It is in San Francisco. So what we do is we can blow this up here and we'll see the before and the after, right? Doesn't really look that different, a little different color scheme in this one. But you can see, go back, filters. There we go. So yeah. So we'll go minimum amount, 6 million. $4 million. Okay, we'll do 4 million. How about that? And we'll still be in San Francisco. So you can see here, it's a list price of 4 million, sale price 4.6, and they spent $30,000 on the rehab. So, oh, they only have a couple of pictures on this one. So let's go to this one here. There we go. This one makes more sense. There's more pictures. So this one, they spent $40,000 and they redid a few of these rooms. You see the before and the after. Wow, this bedroom before was something special. It just looks like a pile of trash, literally. Then the after is much prettier than the pile of trash. I think pretty much anything would have been better than that. Before, after. So this is about what $30,000 the before and after of this property is. And then we'll look at one more. Let's look at one in Irvine. So they spent about $40,000, sold it for 4.788. They probably spent it all right in this room. 40,000. Anyway, let's look at some other ones here. If we go, stop share. Sandy, are you there or is it just your face?
I'm here.
Okay, good, good. What's a, let's take a look here at these. Okay. So here is a before. And then, oh geez. There we go. Okay. Oh, this really isn't working at all. There we go. Okay. So here's a before. I mean, that's the after. Okay. So here's the before and here's the after. Which one, what do you think? These just look different.
You need a killer sunset. That's the whole idea,
That's
right?
the key, yeah. Well, that and the staging, it's completely different staging. This is a much older style staging. This is a much newer, you know, different feel. So let's look at this one. Here's a movie theater. It's the Lion. And this one, you just need a different thing on the screen there. And some different furniture staged before, after.
No, Nathaniel, look at all the ceiling work. And every one of them, they had massive amounts of ceiling work.
Well, this has massive amount of ceiling here.
No, I cleaned it up.
Yeah.
Well, look at this one. Maybe it's the angle. It's just the angle.
I think that one's the angle. They did rework that crown molding, but that's about it. This one's pretty different. I mean, this one's like a pink kind of, I don't know where we are in the middle of some pink land. And then it's a nice modern kitchen. And this is about a $60,000 spent in the kitchen right there. This is an $8 million house here. And they spent about $73,000 on the whole house. And that's it seemed like they did quite a bit of work in there. They replaced a lot of the finishes and things. And also they made outside from blue to green. So that's the biggest cost, I think, in there. Right? So this is kind of, you have like a weird kind of kiddie ocean feel, and then a nice modern clean white lines. This, I mean, it was obviously a little boy's room, and then they made it that white clean lines with a silver top. So a lot of people have been asking me why the luxury properties are selling. What's the deal, right? Ken, I think we were talking about this earlier. Why are our luxury properties selling?
It just doesn't make sense. It really doesn't. If the markets are so erratic, why are high-end markets throughout Los Angeles, and if not anywhere, everywhere, selling at these premiums?
Right. So, and there's a combination of reasons, but a lot of these top properties, they only trade during down markets, right? So just as an example, in 2008, shares Malibu Villa sold for 45. Nicolas Cage's Bel Air Tudor, 30 million. Kelsey's Grammer's English Tudor, 20 million. And an ex property of William Hearst sold for 165 million, right? So no matter what the market, if you're looking for a good price with a great loan, it's basically a deal. That's pretty much what happens. And right now, these luxury properties are selling at what's seen as a discount, even though they're astronomically large numbers. And the interest rates are very, very, very low, which actually affect the high end more than if you or I were to get a loan, because it's more about credit lines. Most of these properties are bought off credit lines, and the low interest rates are affecting the credit lines more directly than the mortgage rates. So right now in Los Angeles alone, there's 45 properties listed over $30 million, right? So that includes one in Malibu for 115 million and another one for 75 million. That's Sepracine and Broad's property. So this is where they become deals, right? So the Wallingford estate, which is a large mansion in Beverly Hills, hit the market for 95 million, which seems like a large amount of money, but it's down 40 million from when it was listed 2 years ago, right? So it's a value, right? Nitish, you're also an agent here in LA. Do you see this as well?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's a ton of high-end listings that are like just people want to sell, I think.
Right. I mean, look, the Bel Air one, it's listed for $125 million, but it was listed for $150 million.
So I have a question, guys.
Yeah.
Is this purposeful? Did they price it higher in good markets with the expectation that they overinflated it? Because there's no comps, right? And comparables to these really high-end homes.
Well, a lot of these high-end properties, these specific ones, it's about feeling, it's about notoriety, you know what I mean? So
if you're smart in a high market or when the market is not a down market, you list it for an extraordinary amount of money, knowing if you really want to get rid of it in a down market, you just discount it and people think it's a steal, but it's arbitrary, right?
Well, remember, your discounting is still giving you a huge cushion of equity, right? So you're still making a lot of money.
No, I get that. But couldn't someone say, okay, I want to sell in 10 years, so I'm going to list it now, even though I have no intention of selling it for an obscene amount of money no one's going to take, and then wait for a few years and say, oh, look, I discounted it from the last time I put it up for sale. I mean, if they understand the trend, why wouldn't anyone just do that?
Well, that's definitely a strategy that you could theoretically do. I mean, I had somebody who listed their property for 20 million, which had no intention of selling for 20 million, and they knew it was going to sell for 11, but they wanted to call it a $20 million property. So it's a lot of time and effort to put on a property that you know isn't going to sell. And there's other strategies to ascertain value like that. What do you think, Herman?
Where do I begin? Some questions that came up were why is there just like bifurcation of what's happening in the market, right? So on the high end for you guys, I'm not sure about LA, I'm up here, but the homes up here that are really moving quite fast actually are within like the, I would say like the aspirational, affluent kind of vibe, morning like 8 million to 20. Anything above 20 is kind of lingering, frankly. So I think we're going through a little difficult or diverse situation than you guys. Although honestly, San Francisco is so tiny. It's 7 by 7 square miles. I mean, like LA is huge. So my personal opinion about what's going on down there, I think LA is very much ego based. And I think, and the, who said something about like, why would you list something and like just like wait for 5 years to be reduced? Well, it's an egotistical blow to be sitting on the market, being a vector for exposure. I mean, no one wants to do that. I mean, like, especially, and I know LA, New York, Miami, there's a lot of bravado involved in the culture down there in the real estate, but in San Francisco, the Bay Area, everything is very discreet, very quiet. Private sales are still, despite clear cooperation, it's still happening. You have billionaires driving Priuses. It's not about the show up here. So I don't know how things are done down there. So in my opinion, if someone's like silly enough to price something on the market too high and wait 5 years to get the right price, they're not a serious seller to me personally. They're just testing the market, and there's nothing wrong with that, obviously. But I mean, the trade-off is that you're going to be, it's the house that could never sell. I mean, there's going to be a certain stigma attached to it. And if you're in that level, in that strata of business or celebrity, you don't want to look an idiot. So, I mean, there's a trade-off always. So
That's right. I agree.
Times now. Right now, I think that the reason why people are listing properties, and they're not necessarily transacting, they're listing them down there, it's because of I think people just want to leave California. There's a really massive exodus out of SF. Too. So I'm presuming that's what's happening down there. You know, Hollywood is shut down. A lot of things are being reworked. There's a reshuffling of the workforce. It's like, I just think people in an upper echelon of demographic have the options to do things like that. So why not try to sell your property at this point? I mean, I don't know if they're actually selling like hotcakes though. I don't know. I mean, listing them and selling them are two different things. So, I mean, I'm not sure what the stats are down there in LA, but I mean,
Well, does the increase in personal income tax to the wealthy have anything to do with it, maybe?
Oh, by the way, Herman, David Michael is not Ted Kaczynski's brother in a bunker building bombs. Just to let you know, he's a normal guy. Go ahead.
really
Thank
noted.
you, Ben. I appreciate the endorsement. Hi, Herman. Nice to meet you.
I missed your questions. Thinking about taxes or
Oh, well, they just passed they just increased the tax, state tax for the most wealthy in California. Mm-hmm. And I'm wondering if that has something to do with it. Enough people are getting fed up with that and the fires and the crowds, and they're just like, you know what, California's not worth it.
All of that. I mean, I'm a California native, born and raised. So I went to UC Berkeley, so I'm not like anti-Californian, but like I feel like I just think that California, there was this like post World War II like blossoming, 70s, 80s, kind of was the peak of California. And now the past 2 decades, we're kind of like dealing with all the stuff that happened years ago. And so now it's coming to a head. It's homelessness. It's like the economy. It's like, like I said, and really a lot of it, I think, is based on like the bifurcation of class. Like in San Francisco, for example, like You know, the middle class is completely cratered in the city. It's ultra high net worth or you're poor or homeless. Everyone's left to the outer boroughs, which is fine. Okay, but even now under COVID, and especially with work from home and everything else, and the fires, and the taxation issues, there's all of it. I mean, there's only so much goodness that people want to be here for. And I'm not trying to like sound. I know we're in real estate sales, and we're always supposed to be kind of happy and put on a happy face, but the reality is, like every day since the shutdown has happened, I'm having conversations with buyer or sellers who's saying, I want to move to Tahoe. What are the tax implications or benefits of going to Nevada? I mean, like everything you're asking about is on their mind. Whether or not they're pulled the trigger, it's a different story. I feel like if your job is geographically based here and your family's here, such as myself, I'm kind of tethered here. But for my clients who came here 10 years ago for a startup and they're from the East Coast, they're gone. I mean, they're just gone. So there's no reason for them to be here, especially with the work from home. So, and I'm sure taxes have a lot to do with it too.
We have the same thing happening in Los Angeles. We're seeing the high net worth people, because you're right, they have the privilege to leave if they want.
It's interesting. It's unique here in LA because you have a lot of high net worth people leaving, but you have a lot of high net worth people internationally coming here also. So the number of citizens is dropping, but the number of people isn't that dramatic. And then you have a lot of the lower end, under $100,000 income people leaving in droves, right? So there's definitely a huge division. I mean, the largest construction loan in history is going on right now for somebody just improving their house here in LA. It's $49 million. They're refinancing to do cash out $49 million right here.
Herman, let's talk about the areas. So
well, real quick, I just want Herman to introduce himself for a second.
Oh, Herman, tell us about you.
Because Herman is the #1 agent in San Francisco. And if anybody needs to know anything about real estate, luxury real estate, or anything, basically, in that whole area of California, Herman is the man.
Thank you. You're very sweet. I have to pay you for, my PR person, but.
Herman, I moved to Tiburon when I first got there. So I had a home in Tiburon on the water, which I eventually sold, and I moved to Soma.
Okay.
I had an office in Pack Heights, and then also had an office in Nob Hill. Now, this is going back to the late 1990s. Let's talk about the areas now. Say that again?
Bomb.
Yeah, so tell us about what the areas look like. Right now, what is the most pristine area in downtown San Francisco?
Yeah.
There is none.
Where has the most zombies?
I mean, I'm just being honest with you guys, and I'm not, so if you look at the stats for this year, every single county surrounding San Francisco is completely on fire, literally. No, but it's like the inventory levels are so tight, even because everyone's leaving the city, anything with a yard and outdoor space is getting snapped up like hotcakes. San Francisco is the only county in the entire 5 to 6 county Bay Area zone where the number of homes actually increased. So there's clearly, people want out. And that's just like an aggregate for San Francisco. If you like segment the data further, if you look at condos, for example, it's even more grim in San Francisco. So last year at this time, there's 300 condos for sale in SF. Now there's over 1,100.
Whew.
Like crazy. Okay, but that's condos because everyone doesn't want to be in a shared HVAC system and elevators, all that COVID stuff. And most people who are buying in that demographic don't work from home because they're techies, right? So anyways. But if you're talking about in San Francisco, the question isn't so much like what's the hottest neighborhood now. It's like which neighborhood is the one you should avoid or the one that's being created the most. That is Soma, Sinai, downtown, anywhere within like all the new builds, because like literally within like 4 blocks of downtown, there was like 12 new builds, and all of them are luxury. And so that demographic bought something already in the past 10 years, and all their money managers are telling them don't buy now. And it's just like there's like hundreds of units literally in the pipeline for these new builds. So I suspect they're going to go rental at some point, or if they have really deep pockets, they'll take it off the market or something like that.
Has Castro been able to maintain some of its? No, really? Oh.
Castro, which has a nice place in my, I used to sneak out there when I was in high school to go party, but like, it's, Castro to begin with, for those of you who don't know, is the gay rights, like Harvey Milk, like street, which is very popular. And actually, Castro is the highest destination tourist point in San Francisco above all other destinations in San Francisco. So it's a very, that in and of alone tells you it became kind of a cartoony Disneyland like world. So it's a little, it's lost its like kind of edge a little bit. So it's a little more commercialized and it's not really as,
I get it. So Herman, let me make sure I understand something. So what we saw at least, let's go 5 years ago, many of the .coms were doing busing into Cupertino and into Mountain View, and they're allowing people to live in the city. So they're getting those really nice luxurious buses and bring them back and forth. And that jacked up the prices for a while. Now, are we seeing those people that are in the .coms that are still down in the valley, still living in downtown San Francisco, or have they moved out?
If you're young and no kids and you come work from home, you're pretty much gone. And the funny thing is that you're mentioning like 90s first, because that was the first .bomb era. Those people are at this point 20 years older. They have kids. They're probably having like grandchildren at this point. Okay, it's the second wave. They're like probably 50, 60, which is nothing wrong with that. But they moved on to other things. And then there's a second wave. The people who can even the ramp up of the Facebook era, the social media. Like they came here 10 years ago, single, typically. Going to school, Stanford, Berkeley, went for a startup. Now they're 10 years older, they're in their 30s, and they're having children too, or partnering. They're moving out to the burbs at this point. So there's been a really big reshuffling. I mean, I think SF and the Bay Area will always have like a great financial and cultural mecca vibe to it. But right now, I call it a reshuffling. People are just reevaluating why they have to be here to spend all this money when they don't even have to be here for commuting. Everything's shut down.
So why does somebody want to be in San Francisco then? What is it?
Well, if you have family there, such as myself, all of a sudden, people who are shut out from all cash buyers or foreigners who are buying all cash, all of a sudden, like people who are an engineer and an accountant, person who would be like completely blown out of the water 2 years ago, they actually have a chance. I mean, so anyone who's like middle class, and middle class is barely like relative, obviously here, has a shot nowadays, which is great because we need that. I mean, like SF became kind of like a the cultural zeitgeist left San Francisco like maybe 5 years ago, frankly. It moved over to Oakland, Berkeley, just like New York is very sterile in some ways, and it will always have a legacy. But Brooklyn is really where kind of the art, everything is like kind of like happening there. It happened here too. So why did someone want to be in San Francisco? It's still a great VC area. There's a lot of opportunity also for jobs, for schools here too. The weather is still marvelous if you don't mind the occasional smoke nowadays. But I feel like if you're in here for the long run, now is a great time to buy in the city of SF because it's going through a lot of rockiness right now. But if you're here for the long run, you're having children, you're in a different sector of your life, then you're out in the burbs competing, fighting people off with like, a stick, try to even get someone to look at your offer. So yeah, I mean, there's still something for everyone here. But we shall see. We are in the eye of the storm of this whole COVID. It's like the 3 Ps, right? Like politics, pollution, and what's the third one? I heard politics, pollution, and pandemic. There we go. Right. So it's really odd for me when people ask me what's going to happen in the spring. I don't know. I'm not an economist. I'm not psychic. I mean, nowadays I'm telling people you need to do literally what's right in the moment for you right now, and do some soul searching because everyone who told their sellers last winter, wait till spring to sell. I mean, you're screwed. And then everyone in the spring who told their clients, wait to the summer to tell the economy's going to reopen again. They've put a date. Well, I mean, that didn't happen either. So here we are. It's like, you know what? Don't try to predict things for your clients. Like I feel like if the clients are going through the 4 Ds, death, divorce, diapers, and diamonds, they're going to always be having to buy and sell because it's a life like event. But if you're discretionary, if you're doing investment property, if you're doing, pied-à-terre, whatever that's like, I would say now is not the time to get into the market. And for ultra high net worth people, my clients who are in that strata, it's all discretionary. They don't have to buy, they don't have to sell. So it's a whole different vibe for them. They're just moving because like now they can exit for whatever reason they want to, whether they want to live in a big quarantine compound in Montana or.
Yeah, but it is interesting. Yeah, Mark Benioff building, the tallest building in the financial district, right? All of this, and he's trying to fix things up, trying to put so much in the homeless side of things. He's not really making a dent, is he?
No, no one's making a dent in San Francisco because honestly, they don't live here. They're not, everyone who came here is just to leverage the economy. It's no one really came to San Francisco for the past generation to actually be here to run for office because they're just here to make money on their startup or whatever. And then they go, once they have children or once they sold their startup, they leave. Mm-hmm. So when you don't have a consistent base of people who really care about the community and are in it to win it long term, it's gone. I mean, and Mark is only one guy. He can't see it. He's not Superman. I mean, you need to have like a whole collective society of people who want to actually create something special in the city. And that's just kind of not there right now. I mean, I think it will come back because now with the real estate middle market being a little more crater, I think people will come back eventually. But right now it's a little, yeah.
What do you have on inventory? Do you have more buyers or more sellers?
Buyers. I wish I had more sellers, but you know, just inventory is very, very tight here. Very, very tight.
So even despite all that, you still have a massive number of people looking to buy, just at lower price points. Is that the idea?
They're all over. I have like a couple listings at 25 million plus. I just ratified something for these two little gay boys, HIV counselor for 400K in Vallejo, which is like, for you guys, way out in the burbs, like just way, way, way out in the burbs. So for me, it's not really about, I mean, I appreciate that you introduced me as Mr. Luxury, but honestly, I'm not coming from that space. Like if someone needs my help, I see it as like a problem solving thing. Like right. I'm 5% down, I'm an HIV counselor, I have no money. What can I get? I mean, I'll help you try to solve that problem. Or, you know, I'm going through a big divorce, I've got a $50 million property, what do I do? I mean, I'm a problem solver, so I don't know, I'm kind of like a weirdo like that, so just like all over the place.
Well, because you're smart, so you know all the markets, you know the market that you're in, not just a little niche of it here or there. So, you know, knowing that luxury market, not a lot of people know it, you can do all of it, right? You have the 25 million, you have the 30 million, you have the 400,000, you've got it covered. Now, if somebody was, let's say, a little bit more willing to take a risk and they wanted to maybe play the market and see if where they could win, let's say, where would they be buying? If somebody wanted to come in and buy and hope, like if things were to get better, where do you think those values are going to be? Does that make sense?
I think the best deals right now are condos in San Francisco, but you want to buy a condo that is special, not something that's like 100 other ones the same one, something with a mega view, a huge outdoor patio area, maybe like triple parking spaces, something special to differentiate yourself, because right now the condo lot sellers are like desperate. I mean, they're like offering free Pelotons, there's a free French vacation to France I just saw was posted recently. I mean, they're like desperate to get inventory out. So that's where the value is, but the value is only there if you're going to hold it. If you just want to buy it and sell it in a year or two, no, don't. So if you're looking for a longer term, now is like where condos are feeling very insecure, frankly. I would have told you like pre-summer that a lot of people were moving out to like Tahoe, Napa, and like Nevada City. But now with the fires, I mean, I mean, it's kind of, yeah, 2020 is very unpredictable. So again, I find it increasingly hard to advise clients from an investment standpoint.
Right.
It's more about like, what is your personal, the 4Ds, for example, because honestly, that's what, if you are buying as an investor, it's only going to make sense if you get something that's a complete fire sale. The margins and the uncertainties are high right now, honestly. So, yeah.
I know Ethan's got a question. Ethan, you want to ask a question?
Yeah, I've been listening to some real estate just podcasts lately, and I have a question about rentals. Has rental demand gone up? Because I think the foreclosures are coming. They're going to come in a wave, which is going to raise rental demand. And has it already started in places like San Francisco where there's more demand for rent?
So, to interrupt you. So, year to year, it's gone 12% down already in SF. 12%. And that is like an aggregate for the city of SF. Oakland's gone down 6%. Now in Soma or the downtown area, it's gone down almost as much as 20 to 25%.
Wow.
So your comment about foreclosures, everybody asks me that. I don't really see that happening here because like the people who are like you said earlier, Ken, like there's just like, the markets are so diverse right now because you're seeing online, on newspapers, 30 million people unemployed, people dying left and right, you know, people are suffering, but then like in our own little sphere, I mean, like people, I mean, I don't know anyone who's lost a job. people are like buying $1 million properties left and right. It's almost like the only big sacrifice they've made is maybe like remote homeschool learning, but they just hire a nanny or someone to, it's not like, and it sounds so, this is private, right? It's like, this is
Yeah, you're good, you're good.
very like 1% to say, but honestly, life has not changed that much for a certain strata of person. So that person or demographic was already able to afford San Francisco and the Bay Area, which is comparatively to the rest of the market luxury. So the people who are going through foreclosures, you're going to see that in Central Valley, but not so much here. I mean, you will see some, but it's just not enough inventory to make that much of a dent. I personally, I don't think.
Can you also say that you'll see less foreclosures because people overall have a lot more inventory than than 10 years ago, which I know is what everyone's really talking about when they ask about foreclosures, is really saying isn't going to be like 10 years ago. And I know here and across the country in general, people have more equity than ever. I think like 51% of homeowners had equity. And so I think there'll might be a little bit of an increase of sales, but I don't think there's going to be this huge rush of foreclosures.
It's going to be like in very investor heavy areas like Arizona, just like last anywhere where there was a majority of people who are just buying to speculate.
Mm-hmm.
That's going to happen. But like where you're putting 20% or 100% down for something, you've got a great job to begin with. I mean, there's an assumption that you're already at a certain level. I mean, not that they can't lose their jobs either, but I don't think it's just going to be that much of the inventory is so tight here. The city is 7 by 7 miles. It's like tiny.
Right. You always have somebody coming and going, and yeah, I get it. And foreclosure, you have to go so long, right? You have to go so long in a foreclosure. And right now, just so you guys know, here's some insider information. I was talking to one of the lawyers for one of the biggest banks in the United States the other day, and they were telling me banks right now, first of all, your court systems are completely screwed. So actually filing a foreclosure like Greg has talked about in the past is going to be arduous at best, but probably impossible. And they're not even hearing a lot of the civil cases in most courtrooms now because there's so many criminal court cases that they're pushing back years, 2 years, 3 years. So try to foreclose. Great. Now I get to live for free for 3, 4, 5 years. Who knows? Right. So that's it. But basically the lawyers for these big banks, the big banks are going to do anything possible to not foreclose right now. They will do anything possible to not foreclose. They basically, this particular bank, they have a kind of unspoken but spoken instruction of do anything to avoid a foreclosure, do anything to keep these people in their homes, pay whatever you can, don't pay, do a deferment, do a whatever it is. They're not going to be a lot of foreclosures because the banks don't want them. People have equity, so the people that are going to get forced into that, they'll probably sell before. And the only people that aren't are the investors, like Herman was saying, who just are going to suck every cent out of it before they get foreclosed with, not a big rescission. I have a quick question. Jason, where are you located?
Me?
Yeah.
Hey, I'm in Chicago.
Chicago. Okay. Got it. I wasn't sure exactly where you were.
Jason recently moved to Chicago.
Where did you move from, Jason?
New York City.
Wow. You moved from one place everyone's leaving to another place. Is your next move San Francisco?
No, definitely not. I grew up in Jersey, just came out here for work, but yeah, the city is, we're having a lot of discussions about, where the next move is going to be. My wife and I are actually going to Austin this weekend to check it out because apparently that's where all the cool people are moving. So
I think Nashville's pretty impressive. Just saying, I was there 2 weeks ago. Kind of surprised me.
I hear amazing things.
Well, where has one of the most competitive markets right now is Denver. Denver, Colorado is one of the most in-demand places in the entire country. Right now, it's the most competitive market.
I believe it.
David?
Yeah.
David,
Actually, everyone from Denver's trying to move out to where I live now.
Oh, really? So they're moving to Denver's moving out to the suburbs.
Yeah, they're moving out to the mountains and getting away from the crowds. It's weird. It's like the younger people are in downtown. I mean, the more urban environment, but a lot of people.
Well, that goes right to what Herman said. You know, the younger crowd is in the city. And but I just want to make sure, Herman, you said the areas to stay out of were Soma. You're
Correct.
saying the area is, I guess, Tenderloin, right? Stay out of Tenderloin.
Well, historically, Tenderloin is always low income, lots of Section 8 housing, so you wouldn't be there to begin with. There's really no housing stock there. It's all like rentals for Section 8. But when I say Soma, I mean South of Market, downtown, financial district, where everything was like every other block was a new high rise.
Yeah, it was, well, because of the park. The baseball park was there. The Calchat trains right there. It was logistically a great area.
Right.
And now it's not. Why isn't it not a good area?
Felt that because honestly, at the time, the city wanted to build, because when I was going to UC Berkeley, the whole area was flat. There was nothing there. You would only go down there if you wanted to score a prostitute or crack. And then in the late 90s, early 2000s, they started courting more luxury builders, and because they wanted to kind of make something really, create a new like neighborhood. And so they were successful, but almost too successful. Everything that was built there was luxury. There was no like rentals. There's nothing for like middle class people. So, and it was great when it was 1 or 2 or 3 buildings, but now there's like over a dozen new builds there, which are all pretty much the same product. I mean, they'll tell you different things, obviously, but like basically it's a shiny little shoebox. I mean, it's kind of been overbuilt. So Oakland is going through something similar too, but they were smart in that they didn't build everything catered to ultra high net worth luxury people. They have a nice mix. So they are not going through as much of a issue as San Francisco.
Well, let me ask you a very simple question. Let's just say you had the opportunity to move. You do not have to live in San Francisco. Where would you move to?
Well, my family's based here, but assuming they all,
Right.
I could bring them with me. That's, I think, what every American is asking themselves right now. I honestly do not know, because would I go to Hong Kong where my family is originally from? There's like strife there right now. I mean, would I go to Canada? I don't know. I honestly don't know. Everyone else who I know is going through what you guys said. Like what historically it sounds pejorative, but like second or third tier cities: Denver, Reno, Nashville, Atlanta. It's going to be the rise of those cities. This is their time. Just like San Francisco, it's a little cratered now. Oakland and Berkeley, just like is a new thing. Same thing in Berkeley. So I just think areas which were like ignored in the past it's their time. And so I didn't know really where I would go, but I'm open to anything. I mean, I
got to tell you, in the last month, I have heard more about Puerto Rico. Now, I used to hear it 2 years ago, but now it's much more intense, and it's all my high net worth friends. They're saying, Puerto Rico, this is where we're going to go. And it's because of the 4% tax.
Wow. Yeah.
What's the tax rate in Puerto Rico?
4%, everything. Federal and state, it's 4%.
That's a big difference. Yeah, because the state tax here is really, really low in Colorado.
Yeah, but I'm not even saying there's a state. Federal is 4%.
That's amazing.
Well, it's not a state. Puerto Rico is not a state,
Right.
but they don't have a state tax.
Yeah, but imagine that.
Jurisdictional tax, whatever, but territory tax. But the reality is that the federal piece of it's.
Rock started this, and now Quigley's going, Taryn's going. I mean, all our billionaires are going there.
Quigley's moving. He's finally getting out.
Taryn just bought a $10 million jet just so he can say, I could jump out anytime I want. It's just kind of funny, right? He wants to save by buying a little crap. He goes, I got a crappy jet so I can fly out of Puerto Rico anytime I want.
Must be nice.
Yeah, it is nice, obviously. Okay, so Herman, you are right now not hip on your own city. You're just not. You're not.
Sociological standpoint, correct. If you're looking for someone who is like more proletariat and a plebeian, this is now the time to buy, because people who were beating you out before are gone. So
Right.
like my friends and family who were very working class, like laundromat people, they were having to move out years ago because they were being like shut out. But now all of a sudden they can. So it's not like I'm down on it. I'm just seeing that like for the past 10 years, the techies and foreign buyers who essentially dominated everything here, they're gone. So it's a different buyer pool is going to sweep in. So it's just, I'm not concerned, honestly. It's like we have to, everyone needs a roof over their head at some point.
And has Marin still maintained its prestigious side?
Marin is in its own little world. I mean, they like it that way. So, no, Marin is very hot right now because they like being remote, and it's everything about like yards and a certain demographic. Mill Valley is completely just like a little LA now. Like Lululemon pants, yoga moms everywhere. I mean, it's changed a lot, but it's still that vibe. Yeah.
And then if you couldn't afford Marin, are you doing more Belmont, South, that type of area?
Right. So you're right. So there's like certain like stereotypes. So like if you come to the city in San Francisco, you get your startup job. You move to Marina or Cow Hollow, you're basically like a frat boy, Barbie Ken doll. You marry somebody. You move to Marin because you work in finance. Okay. If you work in tech, because Marin is north, right? So tech is Silicon Valley. You have the next day in your life, you're going to move down to Belmont, Hillsborough, Millbrae-ish, somewhere in the peninsula. If you're a little bit cooler, or maybe money, you want to stretch it further, you go to the East Bay.
Oh, you go what, to Fremont?
No, Oakland, Berkeley. Fremont now is considered Silicon Valley, basically. That's my hometown.
Okay, Fremont's your hometown. And then how about even further south, Gilroy, going way down south? Is that, because here's the irony. If you're in the Hollywood industry, the further you live from Hollywood, the more successful you are. Because you don't need to be in Hollywood. You know, you set the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and I'm wondering.
You're not waiting tables somewhere at CPK.
That's right. So how about the same thing? The more successful you are, the further you can live away from where you work because you own the job, you own the company. How far south can you go to where you're still in that ecosystem? Are you seeing people do Gilroy?
Because first of all, Gilroy, the brand equity of Gilroy is not there, so don't say Gilroy. So you know. So, but if you want to have bragging rights about that vibe you talked about, like I've got a client who I sold multiple homes to. Now her daughters who I've sold to also have children. She wants to basically go and settle down. She wants to go to Santa Cruz.
Oh yeah.
So Santa Cruz now is really like the new thing to do, and it's like nice and still accessible. There's still like culture there.
But they have the homeless issue on the beach now. It's horrible there.
Welcome to California. It's
yeah. No, but it's horrible. But it's gotten worse. It's gotten worse. And Embarcadero's looking horrible. I mean, everywhere. It's just looking really bad, isn't it? It's just kind of mind blowing. It exploded.
It did. It really did. I mean, like I lived in downtown LA very briefly, around like 2009, and everyone told me, "Oh, it's Skid Row, don't live down there, it's terrible." But I knew something was coming because that's my business. And so when I go down there, I'm very proud of what happened. But literally within the past 3 years, like it is Skid Row everywhere now. It's like before it was like on 6th Street. It was kind of like you could still have a nice like city life down there, but literally now it's just pervasive. And I mean, the same could be said about San Francisco.
It's way worse now.
Yeah, he lives right there. Z gets it.
I'm on 6th Street.
Oh, there we go. Yeah.
No. Yeah, Z gave us a tour of the outside of his place, but the inside's really cool.
Yeah.
The best bachelor pad I've ever seen.
Next time I'll turn the camera on, just drive around the block for you guys. You'll see what's going on.
Your last question for me, I'll let Nathaniel finish up. So if you had, let's just say, $2 million, $2 million, if you can buy something in San Francisco, what would you buy and where?
How long would you be staying here?
You're doing it as an investment opportunity.
It's only investment. 2 million. I would actually, I would say Sacramento. I would diversify those funds in Sacramento, which is extremely, extremely hot now. Maybe parts of Tahoe, Nevada.
You won't do anything in the city at all.
Not in the city. Unless you told me it was like you're a middle-class person, you wanted to finally get your foothold. Aside from that, from an investment standpoint, no. And from a rental standpoint, don't even touch it. The COVID rental laws, the eviction laws were so tight to even to begin with. Like, it's really, I mean, you have to really, really want to be here to invest here. I mean, people, I think when all boats rise with the tide, so for the past 10 years, you could do an ashtray on the market, you're gonna make money. Now you can't make those decisions. You have to be very discretionary about where you put your money in San Francisco. I mean, like you were saying earlier, like the rents, like you don't have to pay rent in Alameda County. You don't have to pay rent as a renter for 12 months. You cough, I got the COVID. You don't have to pay rent for 12 months until the final 12 months. Don't you think every tenant's gonna wait till like month 11 and just slip out on the 11th hour? And then in Alameda County, the debt is not even, there's no recourse. It's consumer debt now. So you can't even sue them for that. So there are so many there are so many. Why would you buy something to invest in? You're either rent as a rental or you're speculating. Now is not the time to speculate unless you're buying really low. You get some crazy fire deal, right? In general, you're not going to speculate. If you're renting for a rental, the rules here are too crazy. It's all pro tenant. So, I mean, if you had to stay kind of in the Bay Area-ish, I would stick the peninsula, possibly East Bay, which is getting very hot now because everyone's leaving the city and going over to the East Bay. But the city itself, you would have to, it would really be.
Yeah, Herman.
And you just buy a motorhome with that $2 million and just drive around the country.
No kidding.
Hey, James has a question, I think. Maybe not. Okay, so, he's gone. Okay, so here's my question, Herman. Two things. Number one is, do you think it'll go back to being a little more artsy? Because, it has more of like that, starving artist feel. I was reading an article that he said they think it'll go back to more of that starving artist kind of a feeling city again, and it'll attract those kind of people back.
Well, it's kind of like what I said earlier. I think it's just gonna yes, but it's gonna take time. It's gonna take time.
Right, absolutely. And then what group do you see not paying rent more? Do you have any feel on that? Because like here in LA, it's actually very high end that stop paying first. So, it's pretty interesting. And then the B stop paying, but C and D, like the lowest level of renters, they're still paying probably with, government money, but they're still paying their rents for the most part. So
I honestly don't know anyone. I mean, I just feel like most people, if you're going to decide to not pay rent, it's because you're just going to leave anyways.
Right.
Well, you're just going to leave. You're just going to break your lease and allow that. It's kind of like a non-issue here. It's like, I don't know people are not paying. If you're not going to pay, you're just going to leave. So.
Yeah, that was awesome. Herman, that was awesome. I love your sincerity and your honesty. I'm being serious. I really do, because you're telling us the truth, and though it might hurt, it's honest and it's real. So you're the first realtor that gave us, and Nathaniel gave us truth too, but everyone else basically sugarcoats everything.
Yeah.
This is honest.
I told you Herman's awesome, right?
Herman, you are awesome.
Pretty sure. Does everybody agree? Terrence, you agree?
Yes.
Jason, Shaheen? I'm glad, Shaheen, that you're out of hell now. It looked like you had this red flashing light, like you're in the bowels of hell. I don't know what you were doing, but yeah, there it is. I don't know what's happening with Shaheen, but we should be worried. But yeah, Herman's awesome, right, guys? It's so nice to spend his time with.
Yeah, thank you, Herman.
Thank you, Herman.
By the way, guys, just so you all know, Herman's usually on these big conference calls this time. So he took an hour of his time just for us. So thank you
guys for giving me a safe space to just be honest too. So
yes. Herman, do you have a podcast we can listen to?
Oh my gosh, I should start one maybe.
You really should. You really should. I listened to your podcast.
Oh, thank you.
Herman, thank you so much. Nathaniel, you want to finish this off?
Yeah, real quick, Herman, if somebody wants to get a hold of you, what's the best way?
Just go to my website, hermanchan.com, or you can follow me on Instagram, Hermanity.
By the way, if you guys follow him on Instagram, you will be laughing your faces off, just so you're ready. He's amazing. Okay, guys, thank you again. This has been another episode of First Mover. We'll be back next week with some amazing guests. Next week, we will have great celebrities actually on, a professional football player turned real estate agent, and some other really cool guests will be on. So we'll see you all next week. Herman, you're obviously welcome to stop by anytime. Have a great week, guys.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Bye.
Yeah.